Hi, this is Nick Mallowick, and welcome to An Evil Mind, a crime fiction vlog from Xenobooks. This one might sound like a little bit of an infomercial, but let me assure you I've received no compensation or consideration for this post at all. That said, I can be bought, but I wasn't in this case. Okay, where do I even start? Early 70s. Actually, not a lot of new Private Eye series. I may probably not pronounce right, but not a lot of new Private Eye series. Nah, never mind. It ain't working. But not a lot of new ones of those out. 1974 sees the advent of the Spencer books, but before that, there's a guy out there named Ralph Dennis. He was teaching school in, I believe, North Carolina, and he starts writing books about an unlicensed private eye named Jim Hardman. And Jim Hardman's partner is a guy named Hump Evans, a black man who had played for the Atlanta Falcons before, being sidelined with a career-ending knee injury. Now, if this kind of salt and pepper team seems familiar, it is now, but it was not so much at the time. And Joe Lansdale has stated that, these characters were an influence on Hap and Leonard. Other people have supposed they might have been an influence on Spencer and Hawk. I don't really see the latter influence myself. Some people believe it's there. So, he sells this series, and I believe there are 13 of these books. I happen to own 2, 4, 8, and 12 in hard copy. I own also now 1, 3, and 4 in electronic copy because a publisher called Brash Books just put them out in Kindle format and trade paperback. After these books were out of print for well over, 40 years almost. Didn't phrase that great. But, the paperback copies in most cases were going for, idiotic prices on eBay, especially Amazon. Amazon resellers are out of their stinking minds a lot of the time. But, they were not the most popular books in their time period. And I think a lot of the people who bought them tended to hold on to them, which is why they might be in relatively short supply on the collector market out there. But like I said, Brash has begun putting these back out, so it really doesn't matter anymore. It's $5, for a Kindle copy of one of these, which, you think, maybe that's a lot for an ebook. It's not compared to a lot of ebooks, that's for sure. But also, it goes down a lot easier than, say, $30, $40 for a hard copy version of the same exact novel. The problem with the Hardman books may have been that they were a straight-ahead Private Eye series that was marketed as if it were a men's action adventure series. Their publisher chose to put them out numbered, like they were Mac Bolan books, or Butcher books, or Penetrator books, or Sharpshooter, any of those, Lone Wolf, any of those series. And they weren't really like that. They are violent books, but they're not books about vigilantes, except, like in the sense that, Hardman and Hump don't have licenses to do what they do. But it's also set in an unusual locale, which is to say the Atlanta of the 1970s, which, is almost like, in certain ways, they're an emerging metropolitan area. Phoenix is much the same way in the 1970s. And there's a little bit of crime stuff set, not so much books, although there is one book, and I can't remember the name of it. There's a couple of movies, for example, The Gauntlet with Clint Eastwood, and a little further down the scale, Speed Trap with Joe Don Baker, both set in Phoenix in the 70s, when it's coming to its fore as a metropolitan area. For example, Atlanta, circa 1980 Atlanta would be shown in Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds and Henry Silva and a murderer's row of character actors. The fact that a lot of people, I think, would buy the Hardman books thinking they were going to get something along the lines of the Sharpshooter and then not may have caused some disappointment. but they're great books. I really cannot recommend them highly enough. I've known Brash was going to be putting these out, and that's why I held off on talking about them for really until this point. It was really just on December 3rd that the first 4 books, and there's going to be some more coming out starting in January. Hardman is bounced off of the Atlanta cops, and I'm about halfway through the first book now. It's really starting to look like he got caught up in something. He was not actually on the take, but once he gets off the cops, his morals become compromised as a matter of survival. Him and Hump, for example, mule heroin from New York to Atlanta. They're dope couriers part-time. This is kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about people driven to a certain amount of desperation because what they would normally have done has been yanked away from them. So he's a morally and ethically complicated private eye character. He's a good guy and mostly trying to do the right thing, but he also sometimes does a lot of bad things out of necessity. We see this with plenty of other characters in crime fiction. Berg is the first one that leaps to mind. Another unlicensed private eye, but they're not. That's really where the similarity ends with those two. There's not a heck of a lot of overlap with them. I guess maybe a little closer is Walter Mosley's Easy Rollins, or for that matter, even Mosley's licensed private eye characters, for example. Still there's that moral compromise and attempts at redemption with some of them. So, but I wanted to put this out there. I wanted to call people's attention to this. Like I said, I know it's like an advertisement, but it's literally not. But they're very good books. Dennis wrote a few other things too, including a World War II era heist novel called McTaggart's War that is also going to be republished under another name. I actually own a big fat hardback of McTaggart's War. It's not particularly portable, which is largely why I haven't finished it. But there's going to be sales links for those down here in the episode synopsis, like usual. There'll be links to my books. There'll be links to another Xenobooks author. And hope you get those. Hope you check these out if you like private eye books in general. And if you lived through the 70s as I did, there's a certain amount of nostalgia here. And if you didn't, but you're interested, well, you're going to get something of a portrait too. And if you think Southern private eyes are underrepresented in the genre, and I would agree with that, here's something for you as well. As always, thanks again for watching. And, if you follow the channel and sign up for notifications, that would be great. We'd really appreciate it. And like I said, thanks again for your time, and we'll talk to you later on. Alrighty, bye.